afternoon and welcome to Transport for the North's board meeting. As this is the Transport for the North's annual general meeting 2026-27, the first item on the agenda is the appointment of the chair. At the previous meeting, the board approved the appointment of Mayor Skaife and Councillor Gittins as co-chairs until this AGM. It is proposed that these co-chairing arrangements continue for the 2026-2027 municipal year. May I therefore ask for a show of hands to confirm Mayor Skaife and Councillor Gittins as co-chairs for 2026-2027. Degrees. Thank you, that is approved. I will now hand over to Mayor Skaife to chair the remainder of the meeting.
Am I allowed to remove?
No, you want to.
If you want. Okay, thanks everyone. So just before we start, we're now obviously in pre-election period, obviously over here in Greater Manchester. So I'm just going to read through a little statement just to make that clear. So this does not affect the TFN's board's ability to conduct its business day, and all members remain just entitled to participate fully. However, I would just ask members to be mindful of the sensitivities that exist and ensure that contributions remain factual, non-partisan and focused on the business before us, avoid any comments that could be against any political messaging or election-related campaigning. Thank you, everyone. So, attendees and apologies.
Yes, Chair. So we've had apologies from Councillor Tucker, from John Hall, and from Mandy Richard, who's being represented by Natalie Sykes. Also, just since the last meeting took place, we've had a number of members of the board who are now no longer members. So I just want to place on record TFN's thanks to Councillor Rollo, Mayor Burnham, Councillor Gannon, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Hinchcliffe, Councillor Murray and Councillor Kilbane.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all those previous members. Thank you very much. On to item 3. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone? I'll keep my screen on. No? Rattle through this at a good pace. Katie, happy with this? Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. They can be found page on page 3 to 14. Everyone happy with the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes, Chair.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Katie, Master of Rise as well.
Members, just 3 points to make. Going forward, the board will receive a new report against progress of our business plan to explain a little bit more about where we are on that. So you'll have that for the next meeting. And building on actions since our March board meeting, we will have in place a new member engagement programme. So a bit of an on-warning for your offices that will be coming around to secure dates for that. I apologise in advance for being the adopted northerner. I'm working on the accent, I promise. And thirdly, I did want to mention that while we're not required to do a gender pay report, we do take a look at our analytics every year, and I'm really pleased to report that we are now below the national average for gender pay and have made significant progress. We've dropped that to -0.8% on gender pay, so that's quite a good achievement for us. So we're happy to share the detail with members separately if that would be useful. But thank you for your support on that.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for that. Item 5, governance update, John.
Thank you, Chair. So the board is asked to approve the board of committees appointments for 2026-27 with delegation to the co-chairs to approve any outstanding appointments once confirmed. Members are also asked to approve the 2026-27 calendar of meetings, noting that partnership board meetings will be arranged only if required as part of the TFN recess, and that no independent chair will be appointed at this stage. The report seeks approval for a constitutional amendment to provide a clear process for cancelling meetings where there is good reason to do so, following consultation with the relevant chairing arrangements and the monitoring officer. It also asks members to note minor constitutional amendments made under the monitoring officer delegation in consultation with the Chief Executive to reflect the TFN reset. The The board is also asked to note Councillor Louise Gittins' permanent appointment as a co-opted member of the TFN board. Last week, the Audit and Governance Committee endorsed the draft statutory accounts for 25-26, and they will be published on the 30th of June. Members are also asked to note the internal audit on IT security controls, which provided substantial assurance and identified no improvement actions. Taken together, Chair, these recommendations support clear, effective and proportionate governance for the year ahead, and I invite the board to approve and note the recommendations as set out. Are members content to agree the recommendations set out in this report, please?
Members happy?
Yeah.
Good, yeah. Thank you, Joanne. Item 6 is the Northern Powers Rail Co-Partnership. Katie?
Members, this is giving you an update on how the governance has evolved and changed following the announcement of the money for Northern Powerhouse Rail, and recognising the new arrangements that have been put in place around coordinating across transport directors, the White Rose Rail Board and the Liverpool Manchester Rail Board. It means the existing co-sponsor agreement that we had is going to be retired and replaced by those arrangements. So this report was intended to update members on that position, and subject to any feedback it is for noting. So any feedback or comments?
Can I just check, does this include the fact that yourself, somebody from this board, would be on the Liverpool Manchester Rail Board?
Yes, we're working on that. So that can support across both sides of the fence.
If I may, I just want to say and welcome the team's work on Bradford, on the Southern Gateway and the City Village, and it's massive strategic investment from us and partners, and understanding the transport opportunity, working with the talented colleagues that are getting us that better connections between Bradford, Huddersfield, Taunton, GM, and of course onto Leeds as well. They're really important, so thank you so much for that.
Thanks, been great for our class.
Any other comments or feedback on that? Are we happy? Thank you very much. Item 7 is Transport for the North Reset Next Steps. Katie again, once again.
Thank you, Chair. So there is a brief background.
Oh, sorry. I can't see that.
Have we got somebody with their hand up? No? Don't think so. No, we're all right.
I can't see that far in. I didn't even see the TV, let alone someone gone.
So there was a brief background paper within the pack, and I wanted to just give members an update on how the TFN reset is progressing. TFN is reforming and changing due to the fundamental shifts in our operating environment. For example, we now have full combined authority coverage across the north. We have rail reform in progress, and that includes the emerging partnerships between MSAs and Great British Railways. We have also, as an organisation, had a change in our core funding for 26-27, approximately a 45% reduction on the previous year. And we have been working with the members of this board on our future plans and direction as a consequence of these changes. Given the sensitivity of those discussions, they have been conducted outside of a formal board meeting thus far. Today, I am able to report progress on those discussions, which have been open, honest and positive. We've explored the high-level proposals and options for TFN's future funding and operating models. Specifically, we've been considering the core functions, the corporate governance and funding, and including the time and the plans to actually make that transition to those new models. I can report some areas around merging recommendations. Members have been broadly supportive of 2 core functions going forward. First is multi-boundary transport governance, so an opportunity for the North to come together to consider schemes and investments that go across boundary. And secondly, our analytical services to support delivery, for example, case making, business cases, etc. And thank you, Mayor Brady, for the comments about our TAME team. Our 26-27 business plan, which the board considered in March, was broadly in line with those emerging functions, which is helpful in providing a stepping stone for us. Members would also like to explore opportunities for other changes to help us work more efficiently and effectively as a strategic body, including how we support the Great North Partnership, further streamlining of our governance, building on what this board agreed in March, and developing a long-term, more sustainable funding model that actually provides support directly to mayoral compliant authorities. Further, more detailed work is now needed so that this board can then consider those decisions at the appropriate time, including any relevant legal, financial and risk mitigation considerations. In the meantime, on behalf of the elected members, the co-chairs do intend to set out those emerging recommendations to the Secretary of State and to the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Given DFT is our primary funder, that is important to enable us to kick off discussions, I hope, between the TFN executive and officials to inform that detailed work that is now needed. And it's why, set out in the paper, we are seeking your support for the co-chairs to commence that discussion with the Secretary of State. I'd recommend that that is done in the very first instance via a letter from the co-chairs. A formal report, once the more detailed work on those emerging recommendations has been undertaken, will come to the board for your future consideration and discussion. That's all I need to say in respect of if there's any comments or feedback, whether we have support for the recommendations in the paper.
Is there any comments or feedback, or are we happy to recommend, everyone happy with recommendations in the paper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8 is the corporate risk register update.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is a paper which I'll keep relatively short. We've been reviewing our corporate risk register to ensure that it reflects the conversations that we're having as part of the TFN reset. And as set out in the report, we have drafted 2 new corporate risks, which link to the new operating model and the new funding model. I just wanted to provide some feedback from our Audit and Governance Committee to sort of share the feedback that came from them on the 23rd of June. They have made some proposals to changes to those 2 new draft corporate risks, specifically that we look to merge those corporate risks into one, given the similarities between them, but that we look to develop further risks as the new operating model and the new funding model emerge. They've also proposed that we should consider drafting a risk appetite statement for the organisation, which would require board sign-off. So as such, I'd like to bring a further update on the corporate risk register, in particular the 2 new corporate risks to the board at a future meeting.
People happy with that? Seems a very sensible idea. Yeah. Lots of nods of approval. Excellent. Okie dokie. Item 9, date and time of next meeting will be 21st September 2026 at 1 o'clock.
That's correct, we'll be on
Yeah.
Teams.
Oh, sorry. Kim.
I just think it's important to say that, given how quickly events are moving and that communication with the Secretary of State, we might need to be open-minded to convening before that. But that potentially could be a political discussion.
Thanks, Bevan, that's a really good point.
That might be something that's isn't it? How we fit that in. But yeah, let's keep that live thing then. Okay, item 10 is exclusion of press and public. I'll just read out a draft resolution on this. So the press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items to section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972 on the grounds they involved a likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 2 and 3 of part 1 of the Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, and public interest would not be served in publishing this